engagement and international relations. This focus of this new policy remains on deterring, denying and disrupting terror networks, both internal as well as external. This policy is now being linked, I believe, to a new approach by India, which I would describe, for want of a better term, as a purposeful unpredictability of response in order to raise the ante and seek to deter any further terror attack. As a result, following the attack on an Indian Army camp in Uri in mid-September, the Indian government said its special forces carried out limited counter-terror operations against militant camps across the LOC. This public admission, a first, signaled a significant reversal in strategic terms of a strongly held belief within the Indian security establishment on the sanctity of the LOC. The mention of Balochistan by Prime Minister Modi during his Independence Day speech and the threat to seek to cut water flowing to Pakistan appear to be other elements of this new approach. However, the Pakistan government has strongly denied that any such Indian counter-terror operation took place or that any militants had been killed in such action. Indeed, it blames India for terror attacks in Pakistan, which India has strongly denied, along with the arrest of an alleged Indian spy last March. At the same time, the Pakistan government noted that all this was simply an attempt by India to divert the attention of the international community away from the ongoing unrest in Kashmir. And this brings me to the second reason for current bilateral tensions, which is the civil unrest in Indian-controlled Kashmir. For the last 5 months, Kashmir has confronted one of its gravest crises. The extent of civil unrest that has taken place has not been seen in several years, bolstered by the death of a Kashmiri youth activist leader, Burhan Wani, at the hands of Indian security forces, with 200,000 people attending his funeral. Over 100 Kashmiris have died, including young children, and 8,000 injured in standoffs and violence between protesters and Indian security forces. Although the Indian government has blamed Pakistan-based militants for instigating this violence, its indigenous nature has been widely acknowledged, most authoritatively by a former Indian National Security Advisor, N.K. Narayanan, who had earlier been chief of India's domestic intelligence agency. M.K. Narayanan also noted that this has given Pakistan the opportunity to mobilize international opinion against India on the issue of human rights violations. So where are we now? What is in terms of the current impasse? I believe this is arguably the most difficult period between the two countries since the 2008 Mumbai terror attacks, or perhaps even earlier, since their military confrontation 15 years ago. Fortunately, we are not at that stage yet of a military confrontation, with neither country perceiving a military clash on the border with a threat of escalation in the interests of either country. Yet, dangerous instances of nuclear rhetoric and nuclear signaling have already taken place. Following the Indian assertion of the cross-LOC counter-terror operation, Pakistan's defense minister threatened to use nuclear weapons if a war were to break out with India. Subsequently, last month, India's defense minister questioned India's no first use policy on nuclear weapons, but then said that this was his thinking and that India's nuclear doctrine had not changed. Unfortunately, therefore, we now appear to be locked into a state of affairs with little room to maneuver bilaterally. Whereas the Indian government states it will not resume official talks with Pakistan till terrorism towards its ends, the Pakistan government states that peace and normalization in Kashmir is a requirement for such bilateral talks that we heard just now from the keynote speaker. But until both sides make compromises, this new normal of heightened tensions may well continue. Both countries, therefore, need decisive leadership and political will for such compromises to be made, although timing for any bold initiatives by either remain complicated by differing electoral calendars. Clearly, the resumption of an official bilateral dialogue is fundamental to the improvement of bilateral relations. But this has remained suspended throughout the year, with no official bilateral meetings on a peace process taking place. In this context, could I therefore suggest that a way ahead in the immediate term, till the resumption of such an official bilateral dialogue, could be a series of unilateral but coordinated measures by each country to build confidence with the other. And in this respect, I have 8 suggestions for which I welcome your own responses. The first suggestion is clearly, for both countries, can there be deliberate efforts by their governments to lower the official rhetoric? Ministers prone to this tendency should, I believe, refrain from expressing their private views in public. Secondly, can an effective ceasefire along the LOC take place again? After all, it was Pakistan that initiated in 2003 the ceasefire along the LOC, which largely held despite tactical violations by both sides for the better part of a decade. Could either India or Pakistan not seek to return to such a position? Third, could the media of both countries take a lead from this and not exaggerate or at times manufacture presumed tensions? Fourth, could Pakistan seek to ensure the resumption of investigations to bring to justice those responsible for the 2008 Mumbai and the 2016 Pathankot terror attacks? Fifth, could India seek to quickly ensure better governance over Indian-controlled Kashmir to ensure that such violence by the security forces against demonstrators does not take place again? Sixth, Pakistan as an early victim of terrorism has achieved hard-fought success in countering terrorism through Operation Zarb-e-Azab in the tribal areas, along with action in Karachi. This has won Pakistan regional and international acclaim, but it has come at a high cost, with 3,000 security forces and 50,000 civilians killed. Yet, could this perhaps be further extended to ensure greater internal security? Seventh and the penultimate suggestion, could India publicly reiterate the territorial integrity of the entire region of South Asia and its interest in seeking a peaceful resolution of the Kashmir dispute? And finally, could all these 7 moves be strengthened by the start of a discrete back channel, possibly between the intelligence agencies of the two sides? And when, not if, the official level bilateral dialogue resumes, it should be result-orientated, focusing on a substantive effort on countering terrorism and a peaceful resolution of the Kashmir dispute. And equally important, it must be sustainable and seek to become immune from disruption. But as we all know, none of this will be easy, and in the end will require decisive political leadership by both sides. Thank you very much.
I thank Mr. Rahul Roy Chaudry for his statement and for the State's ambassador. He served in India as ambassador, in the United States, as well as to the People's Republic of China. Mr. Ambassador, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I must compliment Rahul for having really summarized the tension between India and Pakistan over the last year or so. So I'll try not to go over the same elements of his remarks. I think to begin with, I have some problem with the word normalization. I think the relations have always been abnormal, sometimes ultra-abnormal. And now, of course, the present phase is in fact quite perilous. It's dangerous, the way things have deteriorated. When Prime Minister Modi came into power, we frankly had no expectations. People who have a modest understanding of India really had no expectation that things will move in the right direction. His initial initiative of inviting our Prime Minister to Delhi for this gathering of his inauguration was welcomed by Pakistan. In fact, there was criticism in Pakistan against the Prime Minister for having accepted the invitation, but I think generally it was the right thing to do. Followed by that, they've had meetings in other places, in Ufa, in Paris. He even came to Pakistan. Prime Minister Modi came to Pakistan. Of course, nobody knows what really was discussed in the hall. So, this is really the state of affairs. As far as Pakistan is concerned, for Pakistan, the core issue is Kashmir, and there are other issues. For India, the core issue at the moment that they have put on the table is terrorism. Pakistan is not averse to discussing these issues. But our real problem with India in our present dialogue, or shall we say absence of dialogue, is that we do not want to engage with India under compulsion of what we would call coercive diplomacy. No conditions are to be accepted by Pakistan. I think we made this point sufficiently clear. You're right. I think we need to talk about Bombay. I think this matter is before the courts. There's a weekly trial that is going on all the time. And there is some lack of evidence, and I think there is a certain amount of discussion discussion has taken place between India and Pakistan on getting more material evidence from India. Pathankot, I think it was a good initiative. Our team went, they came back. I'm not so sure they were impressed by the quality of evidence. But I think there is a proposal at the moment made by India to send one of their teams to come and for a follow-up discussion. As far as Uri is concerned, I think the jury is out. There's not enough evidence of any cross-border activity from Pakistan. So these are the crucial issues. But on the other hand, India has clearly decided that it would like to follow or implement its policy of offense-defense. We were in India in March, and we had the opportunity of meeting a very critical member of Prime Minister Modi's team. And he made it sufficiently clear to us that things have changed. The policy is now different. India's policy towards Pakistan will be muscular. And if there are these cross-border activities, or if there are acts of terrorism,